Cody
I have
Hargrove
everything he
walked out
said,
of the Marshall County
word for word.
courthouse, expecting another routine filing. What he found on the steps would force him to confront 43 years of unfinished business. A woman. Navy cardigan. Hands folded. Making a list. The exact posture his mother had in 1981 after an attorney took everything she owned. For 6 years, Mavis Pruitt had been her father's caregiver. Her brother visited 4 times. When their father died, she discovered she'd signed away her rights without knowing it. She had 46 hours before the property transferred forever. Cody was 11 when he couldn't help his mother. He's 54 now. President of a Hells Angels chapter. 109 brothers strong. And he wasn't walking away this time. If you believe the system should protect people who give everything, hit subscribe. Because what happens next proves that sometimes the scariest-looking person in the room is exactly who you need. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Let's go. I have a notebook, she said. I have everything he said, word for word. Cody had been leaving the courthouse at 4:39 p.m. Paperwork filed for a chapter member's custody case. He was 10 steps into the parking lot when he saw her. He stopped. He didn't know why he stopped. That's a lie. He knew exactly why. He turned around, walked back, sat down on the step beside her, 1 step below so he wasn't looming, and looked out at the parking lot the same way she was looking at it. He didn't speak. She didn't look at him. 40 seconds passed. A flag rope tapped against its metal pole in the wind. Someone's car alarm chirped twice in the lot. Then Cody said, "Quiet." My mother sat like that once, right after they told her there was nothing left to fight for. The woman turned, looked at him for the first time. He wasn't looking back. He was still watching the parking lot. After a pause, she asked, "Did she fight anyway?" "She didn't have anyone to fight with." Silence. Longer this time. The drizzle had stopped, but the concrete was still dark with it. The courthouse steps smelled like wet stone and old paper, and something faint. Cedar, maybe. The cardigan. I have a notebook, she said. She held it up slightly. Navy cover, the kind you buy at a drugstore. I have everything he said, word for word. Cody looked at the notebook. Not at her. At the paper. Can I see it? She handed it to him. He opened to the first page. The handwriting was precise, small. Every letter deliberate, dated, timed. 7 weeks ago. A Wednesday at 2:33 p.m. Vickers. The Pruitt filing moves Thursday. Your sister won't contest. She doesn't have standing, and she knows it. Gary. She's been in that house 6 years. She's going to fight. Vickers. Not without representation, she won't. Nobody in this county takes a contingency case against my filings. Cody kept reading. His jaw tightened. He flipped to the second page. The third. When he finished, he closed the notebook carefully, handed it back to her. This is enough, he said. This is more than enough. She took it back, put it in her lap, folded her hands over it like she was protecting something fragile. I know a man, Cody said, who's going to want to read that. He's got a paralegal certificate and 40 years of opinions about probate attorneys. His name is Flintlock. He answers on the first ring. She looked at him directly now. The court ruling was this afternoon. I have until Thursday at 4:17 p.m. to file a formal appeal. With a licensed attorney. I have $214 in my checking account. Cody nodded once. What's your name? Mavis. Mavis Pruitt. Mavis. He stood, extended his hand, not to help her up, to shake, like you shake hands with someone you're making an agreement with. My name's Cody. Tombstone to most people. What do you need first? She looked at his hand for 3 seconds. Then she took it. Her hand was cold. The tremor in her left hand, she'd been hiding it by holding her own hand in her lap, was visible now. I need someone to believe me, she said. I believe you. Mavis Pruitt was 49 years old. For 6 years, she had been her father's primary caregiver. Raymond Pruitt. 2-year decline. Final 5 months brutal. Mavis had left her job as a dental office manager, given up her apartment, moved into his house on Quarry Bend Road. Her older brother Gary had visited 4 times in 6 years. In the final 5 months, his visits became frequent, always with a man named Randall Vickers, introduced as a friend helping Dad sort out some paperwork. The will was changed 11 weeks before Raymond died. Mavis didn't know. The document she signed at the attorney's office 2 weeks before the funeral, described to her as standard estate administration paperwork, was a waiver of contest rights. She signed it. She didn't understand what it meant. She did now. 4 months ago, Raymond Pruitt died. The estate battle began the week of the funeral. It had been moving in one direction since the first filing. Today, Tuesday, 4:17 p.m., the judge denied her emergency motion from the bench in 4 minutes, without letting her finish speaking. The 72-hour window to file a formal appeal expired Thursday at 4:17 p.m. Mavis had $214. The house she'd maintained for 6 years was being transferred to Gary. The savings account, $347,600 after medical costs, split 87% to Gary, 13% to Mavis, structured as a caregiving contribution acknowledgement. Randall Vickers had billed $163,800 in fees against the estate before distribution. Mavis had tried 3 attorneys, legal aid, a Tennessee Board of Professional Responsibility complaint that was acknowledged and filed into a 6 to 12-month processing queue. Harold Finch from the County Bar Association Ethics Committee. Warm handshake, took her number, told her he'd make a call that afternoon. He made the call. To Randall Vickers. Told him a woman named Mavis Pruitt was filing ethics complaints and asking about expedited review. Vickers fast-tracked the property transfer filing. Mavis found out about the call from Vickers's paralegal, a woman with a conscience and a limited window of courage. She told Mavis the day before today's hearing. Too late to stop it. Not too late to write it down. Mavis wrote everything down, medication names, dosage schedules, doctor's instructions. She had memorized things for 6 years. The overheard conversation in Vickers's office, 7 weeks ago, Wednesday, 2:33 p.m. She memorized every word, wrote it in the parking lot, sitting in her car before she drove home. That piece of paper was in her notebook. She carried it everywhere. And now a man in a Hell's Angels vest was pulling out his phone. "Flintlock," Cody said into the phone. "I'm at the courthouse. I need you to come here. Now." A pause. "A woman named Mavis Pruitt. Probate fraud. Randall Vickers. She has a notebook." Another pause. Cody looked at Mavis. "He's on his way. 14 minutes. Mavis exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. "Can I ask you something?" Cody said. She nodded. "The earring. You're only wearing one." Her hand went to her left ear, the small gold stud. It was my mother's. I found it in my father's bedroom after he died. The matching one. I don't know where it is. My brother took a box of things before I could go through it. Cody's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. We'll find it. Flintlock arrived in 12 minutes. 57 years old. Gray ponytail. Vest with 17 years of patches. Ex-family court attorney. Disbarred in 2009 after filing a misconduct complaint against a circuit court judge. The Bar Association declined to pursue it. The judge did not forgive. He joined the chapter the year after. He sat down on the courthouse steps beside Mavis without asking permission. Extended his hand. Michael Crane. People call me Flintlock. Cody said you have a notebook. Mavis handed it to him. Flintlock read in silence. His jaw worked. After the 4th page, he stopped. Looked up. Do you know what the Moreno estate is? No. It's in the transcript. Vickers said, same clean structure as the Moreno estate. That's a comparison, which means there's a pattern, which means this filing, the one you're holding, isn't the first time he's done this. He flipped to the front of the notebook, checked the date. He said this 7 weeks ago? Yes. And you wrote it down the same day? In the parking lot before I drove home. Flintlock looked at Cody. The engagement letter date. If it's what she's saying, if Vickers retained before the will change, that's fraud. Civil and criminal. Cody nodded. How long to find the Moreno filing? Public record. Marshall County Probate Court. If I walk in there right now? Flintlock checked his watch. 20 minutes. Go. Flintlock stood, handed the notebook back to Mavis. I'm going to need this later. Don't let it out of your sight. He was gone before she could answer. Cody sat back down. You said you're staying at a neighbor's house? Beverly Crane. 638 Sycamore Drive. She's letting me use her spare room. How long have you known Beverly? 6 years. She watched me take care of my father. She saw Gary show up with Vickers. She saw the visits get more frequent in the last 5 months. Mavis's voice was flat, controlled. She asked me once if I knew what they were doing in there. I said Dad was sorting out paperwork. I believed that. Cody's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Typed something fast. Put it away. I'm making some calls. You're going to meet more people tonight. That okay? Yes. Good. He stood. Helped her to her feet this time. Let's get you somewhere warm. You've been out here 22 minutes. You're shaking. I'm always shaking, Mavis said quietly. Cody didn't answer, but he noticed. He filed it away. By 6:47 p.m., Mavis was sitting in a booth at Millie's Diner on the west side of Lewisburg, Cody across from her, a plate of food in front of her she hadn't touched. Coffee going cold. The door opened. A man in his mid-40s walked in. Jeans, work boots, Hell's Angels vest. He spotted Cody, walked over, slid into the booth beside Mavis without crowding her. Cold water, Cody said. This is Mavis. The man, Coldwater, extended his hand. Jason Reeves, ex-Marshall County Sheriff's Deputy, 14 years. I know the courthouse filing system better than the people who run it. He looked at Cody. Flintlock called me. Said Randall Vickers. Said probate fraud. Said you need a full filing history. I do. I'll have it by midnight. Coldwater looked at Mavis. The Moreno estate? You know who Elena Moreno was? No. Immigrant worker, sponsored work visa. She was brought to the U.S. by a client of Vickers's 6 years ago. When that client died, Vickers administered the estate. Elena was owed back wages and a small bequest. She got 0. The estate settled with nothing to her. She had no standing to contest. She went back to her home country. He paused. The bequest she was owed was $43,200. It was absorbed into attorney fees in Vickers' final billing statement. Mavis went very still. Same footnote waiver architecture, Coldwater continued. Same dual representation structure. Same judge. Vickers has never lost a probate case in Marshall County. Not once in 19 years. That's not possible, Mavis said. It's not, Coldwater agreed. Unless you have structural advantage. Cody's phone buzzed again. He read the message. Looked at Coldwater. Flintlock found it. Moreno Estate. Public record. Filed 2018. He's bringing copies. Mavis's hands were folded on the table. The tremor in her left hand was worse now. She was trying to hide it. Cody reached across the table. Didn't touch her hand. Just placed his palm flat on the table between them. A gesture. Steady. Mavis, he said quietly. I need you to tell me everything. From the beginning. Not what you think I need to hear. Everything. She looked at his hand. At the scars across his knuckles. The compass rose tattoo at his wrist. Then at his face. My father started declining 2 years ago, she said. Cognitive issues. Memory loss. I moved in to help. Gary, my brother, he didn't visit much. Maybe twice the first year. Then the visits changed. He'd bring Vickers, they'd go into Dad's bedroom, close the door, stay for an hour. Dad would come out looking confused. I'd ask what they talked about. Dad would say paperwork. I didn't push. When did the visits start getting more frequent? 5 months before Dad died. Once a week. Then twice a week. Always with Vickers. Always behind closed doors. Did your father have independent legal counsel? No, just Vickers. Did anyone explain to you what a conflict of interest was? It's on page 14 of the engagement letter, a footnote. I didn't read page 14. I read the first page and the last page. I signed where he told me to sign. Cody's jaw tightened. When did you find out the will had changed? 2 weeks after the funeral, Vickers called me into his office. Told me the distribution was 87-13. I asked why. He said it reflected Gary's relationship with Dad and my caregiving contribution acknowledgement. I said I didn't understand. He said it was standard. And the waiver? I didn't know it was a waiver until 3 months ago. I hired an attorney. He looked at the paperwork and told me I'd signed away my right to contest. I said I didn't know. He said it didn't matter. The document was valid on its face. Cody nodded once, pulled his hand back. The conversation you overheard. You said it was 7 weeks ago. Walk me through it. Mavis took a breath. Wednesday, 2:33 p.m. I had an appointment at Vickers' office. I arrived early. The receptionist told me to wait in the hall. The door to his private office wasn't fully closed. I heard voices. I recognized Vickers. And my brother. What did they say? Mavis reached into her cardigan pocket, pulled out the notebook, opened to the first page. I wrote it down word for word, that same afternoon, before I forgot. She slid the notebook across the table. Cody read it. Coldwater leaned over. Read it too. When they finished, Coldwater said, very quietly, "The engagement letter is dated before the will change." "I know," Mavis said. "That means Vickers was retained before the document he supposedly helped execute neutrally." "I know. That's not a civil matter anymore. That's fraud." Mavis nodded. Her voice was flat. "I've known for 7 weeks. I've been telling people for 7 weeks. No one has done anything." Cody looked up. "How many people did you tell?" 4 attempts. She didn't need the notebook for this. She'd memorized the rejections, too. 3 months ago, I hired a family law attorney in Lewisburg. Paid $1,400 for a consultation. He reviewed the waiver, said it was valid, said contesting would cost more than I'd recover, referred me to someone who handles these cases. That person's retainer was $18,000. Second attempt? Board of Professional Responsibility complaint, filed against Vickers for conflict of interest. They sent me an acknowledgement letter. Processing time, 6 to 12 months. No action taken. Third? Legal aid clinic, 2 weeks ago. The intake coordinator was kind. He explained their clinic handles landlord-tenant disputes, immigration, family court, not contested probate. He gave me a printed list of estate attorneys in Middle Tennessee. I already had that list. Fourth? Mavis's voice went quieter. Harold Finch, County Bar Association Ethics Committee. I approached him at a Rotary Club lunch last week. He was warm, attentive, took my number, told me he'd make a call that afternoon. He did. To Randall Vickers. Told him I was filing ethics complaints and asking about expedited review. Vickers fast-tracked the property transfer filing. The booth went silent. How do you know Finch called Vickers? Coldwater asked. Vickers's paralegal told me. The day before today's hearing. She has a conscience. She called me at home, told me what Finch said on the phone, word for word. Just thought you should know what's coming. Cody's hands were flat on the table. He was gripping the edge, knuckles white. The paralegal, he said carefully. Would she testify? I don't know. She was scared when she called me. She said she couldn't be involved. But she wanted me to know. Cody nodded, looked at Coldwater. Get her name. We'll talk to her. Coldwater made a note on his phone. Cody looked back at Mavis. You said the ruling was this afternoon. What happened? I filed a pro se emergency motion to delay the property transfer. The clerk accepted it. The judge denied it from the bench in 4 minutes. Didn't let me finish speaking. Said the waiver was valid and the motion was insufficient on its face. He won't accept another filing without licensed counsel attached. And you have 46 hours. Yes. And $214. Yes. Cody leaned back, exhaled through his nose, looked at Coldwater. Call Crowbar. Tell him we need a formal appeal motion drafted by 7 a.m. Thursday. Tell him it's probate fraud, conflict of interest, cognitive decline of testator at signing, misrepresentation of waiver document. Tell him the evidence is a dated notebook with a verbatim overheard conversation and a filing timeline that doesn't match. Coldwater nodded, pulled out his phone, stepped outside. Cody looked at Mavis. Crowbar's a certified paralegal, runs a legal document processing service. He'll draft the motion. We'll file it 9 hours before the deadline. I don't have money to pay him. He doesn't want your money. Why would he help me? Cody was quiet for a moment. Then, 11 years ago, my mother lost our family property. An attorney told her to sign something. She didn't understand what it was. By the time she figured it out, it was too late. She spent the rest of her life in rentals. She died in 2006. The property's still in other hands. He leaned forward. I was 11 when it happened. I couldn't help her. I didn't know how. I've been carrying that for 43 years. Mavis looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. I'm not carrying it anymore, Cody said. And you're not sitting on those courthouse steps alone. He stood, extended his hand. We have work to do. You coming? Mavis took his hand, stood. Where are we going? To meet the rest of the brothers, all 109 of them. The chapter clubhouse sat on the western edge of Lewisburg. Converted warehouse, brick facade. No sign. The kind of building that looked like nothing from the outside. Inside, 63 men were already there when Cody walked in with Mavis at 8:14 p.m. The room went quiet. Cody didn't raise his voice. "This is Mavis Pruitt, 49. Spent 6 years caring for her dying father. Gave up her job. Gave up her apartment. Moved into his house on Quarry Bend Road. Her brother visited 4 times in 6 years. When her father died, she found out the will had been changed. The attorney, Randall Vickers, told her the paperwork she signed was standard. It was a waiver of contest rights. She didn't know. She signed anyway." He paused. "Let that sit. 4 months later, she's living in her neighbor's spare room. She has $214 in her checking account. The house transfers to her brother Thursday at 4:17 p.m., unless we file a formal appeal with licensed counsel. We have 46 hours. Flintlock stepped forward, held up a folder. "Vickers has done this before. Elena Moreno, 2018. Immigrant worker on a sponsored visa. Her employer died." Vickers administered the estate. Elena was owed $43,200 in back wages and a bequest. She got 0. Same waiver architecture, same conflict of interest footnote, same judge. Coldwater stepped forward next. "Vickers has never lost a probate case in Marshall County. 19 years. 31 estate filings. 26 involved a caregiving sibling who got substantially less than the non-caregiving sibling. None contested successfully." The room was completely silent now. An older man stood. 68. Gray beard to his chest. Road name, Knotwood. Chapter co-founder. Lewisburg born. "I knew Raymond Pruitt," Knotwood said quietly. "I knew his wife before she died, and I knew your mama, Cody. I was there in 81 when she signed those papers." The air changed. Cody looked at him. 4 seconds of silence. Then, "I know." Knotwood nodded once. "Make the calls." Cody pulled out his phone, dialed, put it on speaker. 2 rings. "Nashville chapter. This is Reaper. It's Tombstone, Lewisburg. I need 28 riders at the Marshall County Courthouse by 10 a.m. Wednesday. Probate fraud. Victim's a caregiver who got stripped of everything by a connected attorney. We're filing a formal challenge. I need visible support." Pause. "You got it. We'll be there." The line went dead. Cody dialed again. "Murfreesboro chapter. Ironside speaking. It's Tombstone. I need 18 riders. Marshall County Courthouse. Wednesday, 10 a.m. "What's the play?" "Peaceful stand. Disciplined. We're making it visible that someone's watching." "Done. 63 in Lewisburg, 28 from Nashville, 18 from Murfreesboro, 109. Cody looked at Mavis. "You're not alone anymore." They worked through the night. Crowbar, certified paralegal, 43, ran a legal document processing service, arrived at 9:33 p.m. with a laptop and 4 legal reference books, set up at the clubhouse's back table, started drafting the formal appeal motion. Flintlock and Coldwater sat across from him, cross-referencing the Moreno estate filing against Mavis's case, looking for patterns. At 11:47 p.m., Flintlock found it. "The notary," he said. "On the will change. It's Vickers' office manager, same woman who notarized the Moreno estate documents." Coldwater leaned over. "That's not illegal by itself, but it establishes a pattern. Same infrastructure, same players. And look at this." Flintlock pointed to a date. "The engagement letter for Mavis's case is dated May 3rd. The will change is dated May 19th. Vickers was retained before the will changed." "That's prearrangement," Crowbar said without looking up from his screen. "That's fraud." At 1:22 a.m., there was a knock on the clubhouse door. Coldwater opened it. A woman stood there, late 30s, exhausted, holding a manila folder. "I'm Sarah Kemper," she said. "I'm Randall Vickers' paralegal. I was told someone here wanted to talk to me." Coldwater stepped aside. "Let her in." Mavis stood when she saw her. "You called me, the day before the hearing." Sarah nodded. "I did. I shouldn't have. I could lose my job. But I couldn't. I couldn't let you walk into that courtroom without knowing what Finch did." Cody walked over. "What else do you know?" Sarah looked around the room. 63 men watching her. She took a breath. "Vickers has a back office. 409 Millstone Court. It's not on his public filings. He keeps a second set of client files there. Pre-engagement communications, text messages with beneficiaries before the primary client has died. Sometimes before they're even seriously ill." "Do you have access to those files?" "No. They're locked. But I know they exist. I've seen him bring files from Millstone to the main office. I've seen the dates on the folders. They predate the official engagement letters by months." Flintlock leaned forward. "Would you testify to that?" Sarah was quiet for a long time. Then, "If you can protect me from retaliation." "Yes." "We can." She set the folder on the table. "This is what I can give you now. Billing records for 3 estates Vickers handled in the past 4 years. All 3 had caregiving siblings who received less than 20% of the estate. All 3 had the same conflict of interest waiver language. All 3 were processed by the same judge." Coldwater opened the folder, started reading. His jaw worked. "The Hernandez estate," Sarah continued. "The Bishop estate. And the Chen estate. Combined, Vickers billed over $400,000 in fees across those 3 cases. The caregiving siblings, the ones who did the actual work, they got less than $80,000 combined." Mavis sat down, put her head in her hands. Cody looked at Sarah. "Thank you." Sarah nodded. "There's something else. Vickers is scheduled to meet with another client tomorrow. Wednesday, 2 p.m. A man whose mother is in late-stage Alzheimer's. The man's sister has been caring for her for 3 years. The meeting is about estate planning." The room went very still. "We stop it," Knotwood said quietly. "We stop it before it starts." By 3:47 a.m., they had a plan. Crowbar would file the formal appeal motion at 7:09 a.m. Thursday, 9 hours and 8 minutes before the deadline. Flintlock would pull every public filing Vickers had made in Marshall County, cross-reference them, build a timeline. Coldwater would contact the FBI. White-collar fraud, pattern of elder abuse, multiple victims across multiple years. And at 10 a.m. Wednesday, 109 motorcycles would line the street across from the Marshall County Courthouse. Not blocking traffic, not shouting, just standing there, visible, making it clear someone was watching. Wednesday morning, 9:47 a.m. The rumble started low, distant, like thunder on the horizon. Then it grew. By 9:54 a.m., the sound was a roar that shook windows 3 blocks away. 109 motorcycles pulled onto the street across from the Marshall County Courthouse in disciplined rows. Tight, smooth, practiced. They parked one by one in perfect formation. Engines cut off almost in unison. The sudden silence was heavier than the noise. 109 men stood beside their bikes, not moving, not shouting, arms crossed, Vests visible. Hell's Angels. All of them. A crowd gathered. People coming out of shops. Office workers stepping outside. Someone pulled out a phone, started filming. Cody stood at the front, Mavis beside him. At 10:03 a.m., Randall Vickers' car pulled into the courthouse lot. He saw the motorcycles. Slowed. Stopped. For 6 seconds, he sat in his car, staring. Then he got out, walked toward the courthouse entrance, trying to look unbothered. Cody watched him. Didn't move. Vickers glanced at the bikers once, twice, then disappeared inside. At 10:47 a.m., Coldwater got the call. FBI, Special Agent Rebecca Torres, White Collar Crimes Division. She'd received a tip about a probate attorney in Marshall County running a multi-year elder fraud operation. "I'm told you have documentation," Agent Torres said. "We do," Coldwater replied. "Can you be here by noon? I can be there in 40 minutes. Agent Torres arrived at 11:32 a.m. plain clothes. Practical. Exhausted in the way of people who've been working cases like this for too long. She met Coldwater and Flintlock at the clubhouse. Cody was there. Mavis, too. Torres introduced herself, showed her credentials, sat down across from them. "I'm told you have something relevant to an open federal investigation," she said. Cody looked at her steadily. "Depends on what you're investigating." "Elder financial abuse, probate fraud, pattern of exploitation targeting caregiving family members." Cody looked at Flintlock. Flintlock looked at Coldwater. A decision made without words. Flintlock slid the folder across the table. Agent Torres opened it, started reading. Her expression shifted. She stopped writing. Leaned forward. "This fills a gap we haven't been able to close," she said quietly. Cody nodded. "How long has your office known about Randall Vickers?" Torres hesitated. 4 months. "We got her out in 46 hours, Cody said. "You had 4 months. The room was quiet. Torres didn't defend it. She just nodded. "You're right." Cody leaned forward. "Mavis gets a victim advocate assigned before the first interview. Nobody talks to her without her asking first." Torres met his eyes. "Agreed." She stood. "We'll be in touch." "Agent Torres," Cody said. She turned. "You do right by her." A beat. "That's the job." At 2:14 p.m., Randall Vickers walked out of the Marshall County Courthouse. Cody was waiting. So were 4 brothers. Flintlock, Coldwater, Knotwood, and Pitchfork, 31, youngest member, documentation specialist. Vickers saw them. Stopped. "Mr. Vickers," Cody said. "We need to talk." Vickers smiled. Shoulders relaxed. Palms open. Head tilted slightly. "I'm happy to talk, but I have an appointment at 2:30. Can this wait?" "No." The smile stayed. "I'm not sure what this is about, but I'm always happy to help clear up any confusion. If this is regarding the Pruitt estate, I can assure you everything was handled according to Tennessee probate law. The waiver Ms. Pruitt signed was properly executed. And when did you first make contact with Gary Pruitt?" Cody asked. Vickers blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Simple question. When did Gary Pruitt first contact you about his father's estate?" "That would be in the engagement letter. Publicly filed. You're welcome to review it." "I did. It's dated May 3rd. The will change is dated May 19th. You were retained before the will changed." The smile slipped, just for a second. 1 second was enough. "That's a misunderstanding of the timeline," Vickers said smoothly. "The formal engagement was May 3rd, but preliminary consultations. Are you holding me against my will?" Vickers interrupted himself. His tone changed. Sharper now. Because if you are, that's false imprisonment. My attorney will bury this club. The brothers didn't react. Vickers was speaking into a wall. You're welcome to call your attorney, Cody said quietly. The FBI is going to want to talk to them anyway. Vickers went very still. The FBI? Special Agent Rebecca Torres, white-collar crimes. She's very interested in your filing history, especially the Moreno estate, and the Hernandez estate, and the Bishop estate, and the Chen estate. Vickers's face changed. I've had a very difficult few years, he said quietly. Different voice now, almost pleading. My practice has been struggling. I've had to make hard choices. I'm not a bad person. I'm just trying to survive. Cody looked at him. Didn't blink. I'm not interested in your reasons. Neither is she. Vickers opened his mouth, closed it. The performance stopped. Nothing replaced it. His hands, which had been open, gesturing, clenched into fists. I was careful, he said, almost to himself. I was so careful. The mask was off. At 3:41 p.m., Agent Torres returned, with 2 more agents, and a warrant. Randall Vickers was arrested at 3:53 p.m. in the courthouse parking lot. Charges: elder financial abuse, fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, practicing law with a conflict of interest, wire fraud, communications with co-conspirators across state lines. Bail, set at $500,000. As they put him in the car, Vickers asked once, quietly, if someone could call his neighbor about his mail, as if that were the thing that needed handling. The arrest should have been the ending. It wasn't, because at 4:17 p.m., exactly 46 hours after Mavis sat on those courthouse steps, Pitchfork found something. Vickers' phone. Not locked. A notification visible on the screen before the agents took it. A text message from a number saved as HF. Handled. She won't be a problem. Pitchfork took a photo of the screen before anyone could stop him, sent it to Coldwater. Coldwater looked at it, went very still. HF, he said. Harold Finch. Mavis looked up. The Ethics Committee. Yeah. Coldwater's jaw tightened. The man who made the call. Cody looked at Agent Torres. You need to see this. They regrouped at the clubhouse, 6:22 p.m. Agent Torres was there. So were her 2 colleagues, and every brother who'd ridden in that morning. Coldwater opened his laptop, projected onto the wall. Randall Vickers, he said, is not the top of this. He's the middle. He pulled up a spreadsheet. 31 estates filed in Marshall County over 19 years. 26 involved caregiving siblings receiving substantially less than non-caregiving siblings. But look at the pattern. He highlighted 3 columns. Same judge on 23 of those cases. Circuit Court Judge Pamela Hendricks. And look at the campaign contribution records. Another screen. Vickers made donations to Judge Hendricks's campaigns in 2014, 2018, and 2022. Total, $22,300. Not illegal, but it's a relationship. Flintlock stood. And here's where it gets worse. 3 of Vickers' former clients, non-caregiving beneficiaries, also made donations to Judge Hendricks in the same calendar years as their estate rulings. He pulled up 3 names, listed the amounts. Combined, $17,800. Agent Torres was taking notes. Fast. And Harold Finch, Coldwater continued. Bar Association Ethics Committee. He's also made donations to Judge Hendricks, $8,400 over 2 election cycles. He pulled up the phone records. And here's the call log. Harold Finch called Randall Vickers on October 8th, 2:47 p.m. That's 3 hours after Mavis approached him at the Rotary lunch. The call lasted 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Mavis was staring at the screen. It's all connected. It's all connected, Coldwater confirmed. At 7:14 p.m., there was another knock on the clubhouse door. Coldwater opened it. A man stood there, 62, thinning hair, wire-rimmed glasses, sweating despite the cool evening air. "My name is Thomas Kirby," he said. "I'm an estate planning attorney. I worked with Randall Vickers on 2 cases. I need to talk to someone." Coldwater let him in. Kirby sat down at the table, hands shaking. "I didn't know. At first I didn't know. He brought me in as co-counsel on 2 estates. Told me it was standard dual representation. I signed the paperwork. I didn't read page 14. I should have read page 14. "What happened?" Cody asked. "The first case was the Hernandez estate. The caregiver, a daughter who'd quit her job to care for her mother, she called me 6 months after the settlement. Asked why she'd only received 19% of the estate when she'd been the primary caregiver for 4 years. I pulled the file. That's when I saw the waiver language. I went to Vickers. He told me it was standard. He told me the daughter had agreed. I believed him." "And the second case?" "Bishop Estate. Same structure, same waiver, same outcome. But this time the caregiver, a son, he called me before the settlement finalized. He said he didn't understand the document he'd signed. I reviewed it with him, explained what a waiver of contest meant. He broke down on the phone, said no one had explained it to him, said Vickers told him it was standard paperwork." Kirby's voice cracked. "I went to the Bar Association, filed a complaint. Harold Finch was assigned to review it. He called me, told me the complaint was being taken seriously, told me there would be an investigation. And? Nothing happened. 3 months went by. I followed up. Finch told me the matter had been reviewed and there was insufficient evidence of misconduct. He thanked me for my concern. That was it." "Did you know Finch called Vickers?" "No." Kirby looked sick. "Not until I saw the news today, about the arrest. I put it together." Agent Torres leaned forward. "Mr. Kirby, would you be willing to provide a formal statement?" "Yes, I'll tell you everything." The scope of it became clear over the next 3 hours. 4 estates where caregivers received less than 20% despite years of unpaid labor. 7 estates where the engagement letter was dated before the will change. 2 cases where the primary client was in documented cognitive decline at the time of the will signing. 1 case, Elena Moreno, where the victim had no legal recourse and was quietly removed from the country. Total dollar amount stolen, $1,247,600 over 6 years. Total victims, 11 confirmed, 3 more under investigation, and all of it moving through the same infrastructure. Randall Vickers to Harold Finch to Judge Pamela Hendricks. Agent Torres stood at the front of the room. "This is organized elder fraud, and it's going to take months to fully investigate. But what you've given us tonight, the phone records, the contribution patterns, the witness statements, it's enough to start." She looked at Mavis. "You did this. You wrote it down. You kept the evidence. You didn't give up." Mavis didn't answer. She was staring at the spreadsheet on the wall. 11 victims, 11 families. "They were all like me," she said quietly. "They all took care of someone, and they all got punished for it." Cody sat down beside her, didn't touch her, just sat. close enough to be steady. The system didn't just fail, he said. It was designed to fail, built to move slowly, built to protect the rights of the accused even at the cost of the victim's time. We didn't replace the system, we just bought the time the system needed to work. He looked at Agent Torres. How long? For charges against Finch and Hendricks? 6 months minimum. Federal investigation moves carefully, but they will be charged. And Mavis's property? The appeal motion Crowbar filed is solid. Given the new evidence, I expect the judge will grant a stay on the transfer pending the criminal investigation. The house won't transfer Thursday. Mavis exhaled, the first real breath she'd taken in 46 hours. At 10:33 p.m., Coldwater received a call. Beverly Crane, Mavis's neighbor, the woman who'd let her stay in the spare room. There's something you need to know, Beverly said. I've been watching Raymond Pruitt's house for years. I saw things I should have said something about. I saw Gary and Vickers meeting there months before Raymond died. I saw them in the bedroom with the door closed. I saw Raymond looking confused afterward. I never called anyone. I didn't want to interfere. Would you testify to that? Coldwater asked. A long pause. Then, yes. I'm tired of being quiet. By midnight, they had 5 witnesses willing to testify. Sarah Kemper, Vickers's paralegal. Thomas Kirby, co-counsel on 2 estates. Beverly Crane, neighbor who observed pre-death meetings. Loretta Mae Sims, Raymond Pruitt's home health aide, present for 2 Vickers visits. Gerald Birch, county title company clerk, who flagged an irregularity in the transfer timeline and was told to proceed anyway. 5 people who saw something. 5 people who didn't know what to do with what they saw. Until now. At 12:47 a.m. Thursday morning, Crowbar filed the formal appeal motion, 8 hours and 30 minutes before the deadline. The motion was 47 pages. Every paragraph supported by evidence. Every claim backed by a dated entry in Mavis's notebook or a public document or a witness statement. At 7:12 a.m., the court clerk called. The judge had reviewed the motion. Given the new evidence and the ongoing federal investigation, the property transfer was stayed pending further review. The house wouldn't transfer. Mavis sat on the clubhouse couch, staring at nothing. It's over, she said quietly. It's not over, Cody said. Justice was served, but justice isn't the ending. It's only the beginning. 3 days after the stay was granted, Mavis sat in a doctor's office waiting room. She wasn't alone. Coldwater sat 2 chairs down. He'd brought a paperback book, worn, dog-eared, and a granola bar he'd set on the chair between them without asking if she wanted it. When the nurse called her name, Coldwater looked up. You want me to wait here? Mavis nodded. I'll be here. The doctor was a woman in her late 50s, Dr. Patricia Warren. She reviewed Mavis's chart in silence, then looked up. Your blood pressure is 147/93. Your resting heart rate is 98. You're showing signs of chronic stress and sleep deprivation. The tremor in your left hand. How long has that been present? 6 weeks. Any recent major life events? Mavis let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Yes, Dr. Warren nodded. The tremor is stress-induced. It should resolve as your nervous system calms down, but that won't happen overnight. Your body has been in fight or flight mode for months. You need rest, real rest, not just sleep, safety. She wrote something on a prescription pad. I'm referring you to a therapist who specializes in prolonged stress and caregiver burnout. Her name is Dr. Ellen Marsh. She's very good, and I'm prescribing a low-dose medication to help regulate your sleep cycle. Take it for 2 weeks. See how you feel." Mavis took the papers, folded them carefully. "Thank you." Dr. Warren stood, walked around the desk, sat in the chair beside Mavis instead of across from her. "I read the news," she said quietly. "I know who you are. I know what happened to you. And I want you to know what you did, writing everything down, not giving up, that took extraordinary courage." Mavis's throat tightened. "Thank you for getting here when you did," Dr. Warren said. "A lot of people in your position don't make it this far." When Mavis walked back into the waiting room, Coldwater looked up from his book. He'd eaten half the granola bar. The other half was still on the chair. "How'd it go?" he asked. "She said I need rest." "You do." They walked out together. The late November air was cold. Mavis pulled the navy cardigan tighter around herself. The cedar and paper smell was fading now. She'd need to wash it soon. Coldwater unlocked his truck. "You hungry?" "A little." "Good. Knotwood's making chili at the clubhouse. He makes it every Thursday. Been doing it for 20 years. It's the only thing he knows how to cook, and it's the best chili you'll ever have." The clubhouse was warm when they arrived. Smelled like cumin and tomatoes and something smoky. Mavis stepped inside, saw 8 brothers sitting around the main table. They looked up when she walked in. Stood. Not because she was important. Because she was there. Knotwood ladled chili into a bowl. Set it in front of her at the table. Sat down across from her. Mavis stared at the bowl. Steam rising. The smell sharp and warm. No one was watching her eat. No one was timing her. No one was going to take it away. She picked up the spoon, took a bite. It was good. Better than good. She ate slowly. The brothers talked around her. Low voices. Someone laughed. The sound was easy. Familiar. The kind of sound that fills a room when people have known each other long enough that silence isn't uncomfortable. The tremor in Mavis's left hand was still there, but quieter now. She finished the bowl, set the spoon down. Knotwood didn't ask if she wanted more. He just refilled it. That night, Flintlock drove Mavis to 1106 Quarry Bend Road, her father's house, the one she hadn't been inside since the locks were changed 4 months ago. The stay on the property transfer meant the house was in legal limbo. Gary couldn't take possession. But technically, neither could Mavis. Flintlock had argued, successfully, that Mavis should be allowed to retrieve her personal belongings while the case was under investigation. The judge agreed. They pulled into the driveway at 6:43 p.m. The house was dark, the yard overgrown. Flintlock handed her a key. "It's a copy. Got it from the title company this afternoon. Completely legal." Mavis took the key, stood at the front door for a long moment before she used it. The lock turned. The door opened. The house smelled different. Stale. Like no one had opened a window in months. Mavis walked through the living room. Everything was where she'd left it. Her father's recliner, the bookshelf, the photos on the wall. She walked down the hall, to her old room, the one she'd lived in for 6 years. Empty. Gary had already cleared it. She stood in the doorway, looked at the bare walls, the stripped bed, the closet with nothing in it. Flintlock stood behind her, didn't speak. "He took everything," Mavis said quietly. "We'll get it back." Mavis walked to the window, looked out at the backyard. The oak tree her father had planted when she was 12. The garden bed where they'd grown tomatoes every summer. I don't want the house, she said. Flintlock looked at her. What? I don't want it. I don't want to live here. I don't want to fight over it anymore. She turned. I want him to know he didn't win, but I don't want the house. What do you want? Mavis thought for a long moment. I want what I'm owed. The 87-13 split was theft. I want it corrected. I want the estate divided fairly, 50-50. And then I want to sell my half and never come back here. Flintlock nodded slowly. That's fair. That's more than fair. Can you make that happen? Yes. 2 weeks later, the chapter took a vote. Cody stood at the front of the room. Mavis Pruitt needs housing. Temporary. Safe. Affordable. She's got no credit right now because she hasn't worked in 4 years. She's got references but no recent pay stubs. The waiting list for subsidized housing in Lewisburg is 8 months. He paused. Beverly Crane offered to let her stay longer, but Mavis doesn't want to be a burden. She wants her own place. Knotwood raised his hand. I've got a rental property, small house, 2 bedrooms, off Sycamore, near the park. Tenant moved out last month. It's sitting empty. What's the rent? I was asking $850. But I'll rent it to her for $400 until she gets back on her feet. First month free. Cody looked around the room. Anyone object? Silence. Good. We're also taking up a collection. She needs furniture, security deposit, first month's utilities. Doc Warren referred her to a therapist, but the insurance situation is complicated. We're covering the gap. Pitchfork, the youngest, the tech-savvy one, pulled out his phone. I'm setting up a fund. I'll match the first $500. By the end of the meeting, they'd raised $4,700. Not because Mavis asked, because she didn't have to. On December 3rd, Mavis stood in the doorway of the small house on Sycamore Drive. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with a window over the sink that looked out at a maple tree. Knotwood handed her the key. It's yours. First month free. After that, $400 until you're working again. No rush. Mavis took the key, held it in her palm. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to. She walked inside. The brothers had already been here. She could tell. There was a couch in the living room, a table in the kitchen, a bed frame in the main bedroom, sheets still in the package on top. In the kitchen, on the counter, there was a box. Mavis walked over, opened it. Inside, her father's belongings, the things Gary had taken. Photos, a watch, a folded flag from her father's military service, and at the bottom, a small jewelry box. Mavis opened it. Inside, the matching gold earring. She picked it up, held it next to the one she was already wearing. A perfect pair. Her hands were shaking. Not the stress tremor. Something else. Flintlock was standing in the doorway. We found it in the box Gary took. Coldwater made him return everything. Legally, with documentation. Mavis didn't answer. She just stood there, holding both earrings. After a long moment, she put the second earring in her right ear. For the first time in 4 months, she was whole. The brothers started leaving at 7:14 p.m. Pitchfork was the first. He walked over to Mavis, handed her a piece of paper with a phone number. That's me. Anytime. I mean it. Something breaks. You need help figuring out the internet, whatever. Call. Coldwater was next. He set a folder on the kitchen counter. That's everything. The appeal status, the FBI contact info, your therapist's info, the timeline for the estate redivision. It's all in there. I made copies. Flintlock crouched, made eye contact. You did something a lot of people can't do. You kept the evidence. You didn't give up. You stayed sharp when the system wanted you to break. That matters. Knotwood was last. He stood in the doorway, looked at her for a long moment. Your daddy would be proud. Not because you fought, because you survived. Then they were gone. Mavis stood in the living room, alone for the first time in weeks. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that wasn't empty. Just still. She walked to the kitchen window, looked out at the maple tree. The branches were bare, but the shape was good. In the spring, it would leaf out. She could see it from here. She would see it every morning. That felt like something. But this story isn't really about a probate attorney or a fraudulent will or even a house. It's about what we owe the people who give everything. 11 days after Mavis moved into the house on Sycamore Drive, Cody stopped by. He didn't call first, just pulled up at 4:17 p.m. on a Saturday. Knocked twice. Mavis opened the door. Cody. Got a minute? Of course. She let him in. He stood in the living room, looked around, saw the photos on the bookshelf. Her father. Her mother. A younger version of Mavis. Place looks good, he said. It does. They stood there for a moment. The afternoon light coming through the kitchen window made everything soft. I wanted to check on you, Cody said. Make sure you're okay. I'm okay. You sure? Mavis looked at him. Really looked. I'm not healed. Healing doesn't work that way. But I'm safe. For the first time in 4 months, I'm safe. And that's enough for now. Cody nodded. You need anything? No. I'm good. He turned to leave. Stopped. The therapist. You seeing her? Twice a week. Good. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. My mother never got this. She never got the house back. She never got anyone to believe her. She spent the rest of her life in rentals, and I carried that. For 43 years, I carried the fact that I couldn't help her. He looked back at Mavis. I'm not carrying it anymore because you got out. You kept the evidence. You didn't let them erase you. And that means something. Mavis's throat was tight. Thank you. Cody nodded once, walked out to his bike, started the engine. Mavis stood in the doorway, watched him pull away. The maple tree in the yard moved in the wind. The branches clicked together. A soft sound. Familiar now. She closed the door. Locked it. Stood in her own living room in her own house with her own key. And for the first time since June, she felt like a person instead of a problem. 8 months later, Mavis Pruitt walked into the Marshall County Community Center at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. She wasn't there as a victim. She was there as a volunteer. The caregiver support group met every Tuesday evening. 12 people, most of them women, most of them over 50, all of them taking care of someone, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, while their own lives contracted into something smaller and smaller. Mavis sat in the circle, listened to a woman named Patricia talk about her mother's Alzheimer's, how she'd quit her job 3 years ago, how her brother lived 2 states away and called once a month, how she didn't know what would happen when her mother died, how she was afraid to find out. When Patricia finished, the group leader, a social worker named Karen, asked if anyone had thoughts. Mavis raised her hand. I was you, she said. 6 years. I gave up my job, my apartment, my life. I took care of my father while my brother visited 4 times. When my father died, I found out the will had been changed. I'd signed papers I didn't understand. I lost everything. The room was very quiet. But I kept the evidence, Mavis continued. I wrote everything down. Dates, times, conversations, and when I finally asked for help, I found people who believed me. It took 46 hours, but I got out. And the man who did it, the attorney, he's in prison now. And so is the man who helped him. Patricia was crying. How did you know who to trust? I didn't. I just kept asking until someone stopped walking past me. After the meeting, Mavis stayed to help fold chairs. Karen walked over. You're good at this. At what? Telling your story without making it sound easy. People need to hear that. They need to know it's possible to survive and still carry the weight. I do carry it. I know. That's why you're credible. Karen paused. We're looking for peer advocates. People who've been through the system and came out the other side. It's volunteer. 2 evenings a month. You'd be paired with caregivers who are in crisis. Help them navigate resources. Witness their reality. Believe them when no one else does. Mavis looked at her. I'm not a professional. You're something better. You're someone who knows what it feels like to sit on courthouse steps with $214 and a notebook. Mavis thought about that. Can I think about it? Of course. 2 weeks later, Mavis called. Said yes. She had stopped counting the days since she left her father's house. She had started counting different days. Days since she started volunteering. 14. Days since she enrolled in a paralegal certificate program at the community college. 37. Days since she got her first paycheck from a part-time job at a dental office. 22. Days until her therapist said she could start tapering off the sleep medication. 9. The math was different now. It added up to something that looked like a future. One Saturday morning, Flintlock stopped by the house, brought a folder. The estate redivision is final, he said. 50-50 split. $173,800 to you after fees. Gary contested it. He lost. The money's in an account with your name on it. Mavis took the folder, opened it, looked at the numbers. And the house? She asked. Gary's buying out your half. He's paying fair market value. That's another $87,400. Combined, you're looking at $261,200. Mavis sat down, stared at the paper. That's more than I ever expected to have, she said quietly. It's less than you're owed, but it's a start. She looked up. What happened to Vickers? Sentenced last month, 14 years, federal prison, no parole eligibility for 11. And Finch? Charged. Trial starts in 6 months. He's going to lose. And the judge? Hendricks retired, under pressure. The Judicial Review Board found she accepted campaign contributions from parties with active cases in her court. She won't be sanctioned. She resigned before they could act. But her career is over. Mavis nodded slowly. Good. Flintlock stood to leave. Paused. You changed things, you know. The Bar Association updated their ethics guidelines. Dual representation in probate cases now requires independent counsel for all parties. They're calling it the Pruitt Standard. Mavis looked at him. They named it after me? You're the one who kept the notebook. 3 years and 4 months after Mavis sat on those courthouse steps, she walked into a probate attorney's waiting room in Columbia, Tennessee. She wasn't there for herself. A woman sat in the corner, late 50s, holding a folder, hands shaking. Mavis recognized the look. She'd worn it for months, that combination of terror and hope and exhaustion. The face of someone who has been failed enough times to stop expecting anything, but hasn't quite given up yet. Mavis crossed the room, sat down beside her. I'm Mavis, she said. I'm a peer advocate with the Tennessee Caregiver Protection Network. I was told you might need someone to sit with you today. The woman looked at her. I don't know what I'm doing. My lawyer says I signed a waiver. I don't remember signing anything. I did what the attorney told me to do. And now my sister is getting everything, and I'm getting nothing, and I took care of our mother for 7 years. What's your name? Linda. Linda, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Do you have a record of what you signed? I have copies, but I don't understand them. That's okay. Can I see them? Linda handed over the folder. Mavis opened it, started reading. Page 14. Footnote. Same language. Mavis's chest tightened. Linda, this is a conflict of interest waiver. It means the attorney represented both the estate and your sister simultaneously. That's legal if it's properly disclosed, but it's voidable if you didn't understand what you were signing. I didn't. Did anyone explain it to you in plain language? No. Did you have your own attorney review it before you signed? I couldn't afford one. Mavis closed the folder. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to connect you with an attorney who specializes in these cases. His name is Flintlock. He's very good. And I'm going to sit with you through every meeting. I'm going to help you understand every document before you sign it. And I'm going to make sure you keep copies of everything. Linda's eyes were wet. Why are you helping me? Because 3 years ago, I was you. I sat on courthouse steps with a notebook and $214. And a man stopped walking past me. His name was Cody, and he sat down beside me and said, "My mother sat like that once." Mavis reached into her bag, pulled out a small notebook, navy cover, drugstore brand. "This is for you," she said. "Write everything down, dates, times, conversations, names. If you overhear something, write it word for word. If someone makes you a promise, document it. If something feels wrong, write that too. Your memory is evidence. Don't let anyone tell you it isn't." Linda took the notebook, held it like it was fragile. "You're not alone," Mavis said. "Not anymore." Cody Hargrove stood in his garage at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday. The radio played low. Classic rock. Something with a steady backbeat. He was working on his bike. Oil change. Routine maintenance. The kind of work that required just enough attention to quiet the mind. His phone buzzed. He wiped his hands on a rag. Checked the screen. A text message. From a number he didn't recognize. "My name is Linda Morrison. Mavis Pruitt gave me your number. She said you help people when the system doesn't. I need help." Cody stared at the message for a long moment. Then he typed back. "I'll call you in the morning. You're not alone." He set the phone down, went back to the bike. The compass rose tattoo at his wrist, the one his daughter drew when she was 7, caught the garage light. She was 23 now. College graduate. Social worker. She'd told him once that she wanted to help people the way he did. He'd told her the work wasn't about being a hero. It was about being the person who didn't keep walking. She'd understood. He finished the oil change, wiped down the engine, stood back. The bike was 43 years old. Older than his daughter, older than the chapter. He'd bought it the year his mother died. Rebuilt it from the ground up, piece by piece. It still ran. Some things you carry, some things you rebuild. And some things, the important things, you hand off to the next person before the road runs out. He turned off the garage light, walked inside. Tomorrow morning, he'd call Linda Morrison. He'd listen. He'd ask Flintlock to pull the paperwork. He'd make the calls. Because 43 years ago, his mother sat on courthouse steps, and no one stopped. And he had spent every year since making sure that when someone sat like that again, someone would. This story isn't about bikers or vests or motorcycles. It's about what happens when we pay attention to the people who give everything and ask for nothing, until they have nothing left to give. If you've ever been the one who stayed, if you've ever been the one who gave up your job, your apartment, your life, to take care of someone else, if you've ever been told that sacrifice doesn't count because you didn't get it in writing, this story is for you. And if you've ever walked past someone sitting on courthouse steps, holding a notebook, making a list like it's the last thing they know how to control, stop walking. Sit down. Ask one question. Listen. Because the system is designed to move slowly. It's built to protect process over people. And the gap between what should happen and what does happen is exactly the size of one person deciding not to keep walking. You don't need a vest to be a protector. You don't need a road name or a brotherhood. You just need to recognize when someone is carrying something too heavy. And then you need to sit down beside them. Pay attention. Listen when someone hesitates. Write down the details. Keep the evidence. Believe people when they tell you something is wrong, because sometimes the person sitting on those courthouse steps is someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone who spent 6 years doing the right thing and got punished for it. And sometimes, if you stop walking, you get to be the person who changes everything. If this story reminded you that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they decide someone else's survival matters, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been the caregiver who gave everything? Or have you been the person who stopped to help? Your story matters. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because Mavis Pruitt sat on courthouse steps with a notebook and $214. And 43 years after Cody Hargrove watched his mother lose everything, he finally got to be the person who sat down beside someone who needed him. The maple tree outside Mavis's kitchen window leafed out that spring. She saw it every morning. The branches that had been bare were full now. And on courthouse steps in Marshall County, Tennessee, the place where everything almost ended, that corner is empty now, because Mavis Pruitt doesn't sit there anymore. She walks past it on her way to help someone else.